Oh man, here we go. That looks like a Hemi to me. Wow, how happy I am to see this again. I miss driving this car. Yeah, your engine cradle was a lot better than the one I dropped it off in.
Yeah.
That thing's slick.
So do we not worry about anything? I know this is very common. I just happen to think about it. Like street driving, a belt drive.
I've never had a problem with it.
I'm not going off-roading. You know?
Yeah.
Are we close to getting into the cam?
I think you're like probably.
Well, I can't get into the camp. That'll expand it.
Cool.
Now we'll glue it up.
All right.
Is all this stuff like this got O-rings or you just got sealed?
They have
behind it?
O-rings.
And those are all oil too, all of those?
No, these are water.
That's water? Okay.
Yeah, you can kind of see the oil passages.
Yeah.
There and there and there.
And there.
It actually has
There.
It's got a lot of places
Everywhere.
where you can get to the oil.
It's got a lot of potential for leaks. That's
Yeah,
what it's
right.
got.
Exactly.
Game in the garage that if someone farts in the garage, everyone has to do push-ups or pull-ups. It's a horrible game.
It's like the worst idea I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
what's the record now? I exaggerate it all the time. It's like
Timber got counted like 280 push-ups
in one day.
in one day.
There was like 8 people in here, and everyone was farting. And
Like him and I stopped doing push-ups around 120, 130. We started doing jumping jacks.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it anymore.
couldn't do it anymore. And Kyle, cameraman, did something like 280
Yeah, it was crazy.
push-ups in one day. It was gnarly. And then, that was horrible, but we made it worse by then switching to pull-ups. So there's a pull-up bar over there. And
I don't know. I can do one. I do one, then my arms go out.
yeah, I got 5 in me. That's it. That's all I got. Allow me to show you guys why it's taking 4 hours to install the valve covers on the Hemi.
this little part goes into the cylinder head. This other part goes through the valve cover to seal the valve cover to the cylinder head, and the spark plug sits inside of the tube. This tube has to slide into this tube, then bottom out in the cylinder head, then the spark plug goes through all that, and there's an O-ring inside of this, there's an O-ring here. All that has to seal together to keep oil from going down into the spark plug hole of the Hemi and getting into the chamber, because Hemi. Problem is, these spark plug tubes aren't wanting to go into these. And all of this has to line up perfectly so you can put the valve cover on. Valve cover goes on, then tube goes through valve cover, then it bobs out in here, and yeah, that looks phallic, I'm sorry, it just is what it is. But they're not fitting together, so we can't put the spark plugs on. So I'm having to take every one of these inserts out of the cylinder head, chuck it up in the lathe, hone out the middle of it to get the tubes to go on so we can put the valve covers on. That is what's slowing us down and stopping us from making actual real progress, like putting the supercharger on the motor. Valve covers are on finally, spark plugs are in. We are just about ready to put the blower on. Those are some big intake ports. My goodness. I think Belle likes them. Looks good, don't it? Yeah. Right now I'm on the struggle bus. Our battery took a crap, and I think it took a crap because I over-tightened one of the terminals and broke it loose. So it didn't want to crank. And then we put water in the radiator, and it all leaked out of the bell housing at the back of the engine block into that pan. Oh, yep, there's another drip. So, although she's all together, we get to pull the trans, and by we, I mean me, because I'm by myself, get to pull the trans out and try to figure out why is there water leaking out the back of this engine. And I know I said, we probably wouldn't get to test, but in the back of my mind, I hoped I would get to let the clutch out at least once before going to drag week. But now I have 24 hours to R&R the trans, fix the leak, get it back together so we can at least chassis dyno it, and then it's just going to drag week. And hopefully the suspension and the trans and everything works. Let's take a trans out, shall we? Okay. 6-speed is out. There's our Mantic triple disc clutch. Hardly looks used. Okay, so next thing is to get the clutch off, the flywheel off, the mid plate off. Then we can see the back of the block and figure out where's the water coming from. I'm praying it's just one of the core plugs for the coolant passages, because that might not be too bad to fix. Where's our water coming from? Right there. Our water is coming from right there. And she is. Well, that's interesting. Did I just pull the trans out for no reason? The bell housing bolts go into water? That sucks. Yep. You gotta be kidding me. Bell housing bolts go into water? Well, there's a new one. I haven't seen this before. Bell housing bolts that go into water.
The world is changing, boys and girls, every day. And so are our speed parts. Look, that's a brand new aluminum Hemi block that leaks water through a bell housing mounting bolt hole. Who knew you had to put thread sealant on all those holes? Never seen it. That would have been good info to have beforehand. You know, before I pulled the trans, the triple disc clutch, the flywheel, the mid plate, before I pulled all that stuff out to figure out where the water was coming from. Yeah, that would have been good info to have, because I could have just pulled one bolt, put silicone on it, and been at the drag strip testing for drag week. But no. Now I get to put it all back together.
Well, here's a little update. We were hoping to go track test. That's not happening for two different reasons. Our battery broke. I was tightening one of the terminals and it spun in the plastic housing. Apparently I was tightening it too tight. So battery's junk. The other thing though, and more importantly, is we have a leak out of the back of the block, and sadly it's just one of the bell housing bolt holes. I showed you guys that earlier. But I had to pull the drive shaft, the trans, the triple disc clutch, the flywheel, the mid plate, all that out to figure that out. And I'm about to measure the bolts we were using to make sure they weren't too long and they weren't the cause of poking in there. Why does that matter? It's already broken. Well, because we don't want to keep putting bolts in there too long and cause the other ones to leak. Because I'm guessing that if this one leaks here, this one has a good chance of going into water there. So we're just going to measure those real quick, make sure they're not too long if they're not, and then we're going to put the mid plate on, and then we're going to squirt silicone in every one of these holes, and then quickly put the clutch and everything back on. Then we're going to put thread sealant on the bolts and shove the bolts in for the trans, and we should be good to go after that. Like I said, there's no more time to go to the track. The best we can hope for is while I'm out filming Roadkill next week, Newbern can go visit Pete in Mooresville and dyno test this thing, so we can at least get a tune on it. And like I said, we'll show up to drag week and we'll have some fun. So let's figure out how long these bolts are and how long these bolt holes are. So this is the one that's leaking. All right, so this represents our engine block. Here's the threads. We have a 1/2 inch worth of depth in the block for the bolt. Then we have an 1/8 inch for our mid plate. Then we have an 1/8 inch worth of washer under the head of the bolt there. So that's 1/4. So that's 3/4 inches of length that we have right there. And if you look right here, it's literally 1/16 of an inch too long, somewhere in that area. If we measure it, we have 1 inch under the head of that. And we only have 3/4 of an inch worth of depth there. So without even compressing the lock washer, we're too long.
Which is kind of crazy, because 1/2 inch of thread in the back of the block for the trans is, I feel like, less than normal. Like, well, that's your bell housing.
Well, if you had a regular bell housing, not this steel SFI one, the flange would be thicker. But because it's a steel bell housing, it's 1/4 inch thick.
Well, even so, like, this is what comes with the quick time belts.
Oh wait, hold on, I forgot the bell housing. 1/8 inch there, 1/4 inch, so it's 3/8 thick. Sorry about that. So you have 1/4 inch there. Yeah, it's still 3/4 inch. It's still too long. We're long by somewhere around 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
So you have 1/2 an inch of depth in the block. There's another 3/8 of an inch being taken up by the 1/4 inch thick bell housing and an 1/8 inch worth of washer. So you're 7/8 basically. And we have an inch of bolts showing under the washers. So we're an 1/8 inch too long on all these bolts. We haven't broken through on the other ones, so we're going to silicone all of them, and we need shorter bolts to make this work. 1.25 inches is too long. We need a 1-inch socket. And once you stick a lock washer, a flat washer, and the bell housing in there, it's money. Okay. Let's put it back together. Getting the trans out wasn't bad, but I wasn't about to try to put that clutch together without you here. All those spacers and bolts, and
I wish they would have sent you studs with it. It's much easier with studs.
much easier with studs. Yeah, with studs, it becomes a one-man job. Some of them, they stud. I don't know why this one, they don't.
Yeah.
I put a picture on the internet of this, or a video or something, and I was kind of explaining what was going on, and everybody's like, well, they wrote right on the block that it needed silicone. I'm like, no, dummies, I wrote that for next time.
Oh, my God.
I was like, I wrote that for next time. So as you know, we didn't go test the car today because we weren't ready, but we didn't waste today. In fact, we were able to get our chassis recertified by Mr. Mike Wells, a gentleman who certified it in the first place like 5 years ago. I haven't driven the car in 2 years, and during that time, our original cert expired. That's the tag on the cage that allows us to run as quick as 850 at any NHRA sanctioned drag strip. Mike, when you certify a cage, what do you look for?
I look for tubing diameter, which I have gauges that are go, no-go gauges.
Okay.
And that tells me that the pipe is meets the minimum requirement that SFI and NHRA has. Then I look for the welds and make sure they're complete, and then there's ways to get around that if they're not. Make sure it's installed properly, how it's mounted to the frame, or if it's sitting on place, there's ways you have to do it that way. But really, I'm just looking at the cage overall to make sure that it meets the minimum requirements that's been established. And then I have a sonic machine that checks the wall thickness. And depending on the material, I'm looking for either mild steel or chrome moly. I'm looking for specific numbers and the welds. And then everything is good. Then we issue a sticker and charge the guy a lot of money.
And actually, given what you're doing, it didn't seem like that much money. I got to be honest, because at the end of the day, it's my butt in the seat, and you're making sure that should something go wrong, I should be okay. So we're going to show you his sonic tester real quick, and then just kind of walk you through what he's doing.
All right,
So it's a sonic tester?
Yeah, it measures wall thickness on tubing, pipe. It measures tubing. It won't measure cylinder walls.
Okay.
I don't have the proper end for that.
Okay. But it'll use tubing thicknesses.
It'll measure tubing thickness.
Wow. And so this is 1 5/8 chrome moly tubing. What's the spec for the tubing thickness?
Minimum is 083.
Okay.
0.083.
Alright.
And wait a minute.
There's an insert in there, yeah. All right, there you go. Now you're past it.
And I'm getting 083, which is typical. I'm picking up a little bit of paint or powder coat, whatever's on there.
That's cool. Wow. There's our main hoop. 080, 081.
Yeah, it depends on how I hold the.
Right.
How I
Yeah,
hold
because
the
it just went to 118. Yeah,
well,
depending on how you hold it, huh?
There's a little wire in there.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's.
Yep.
It has to be. We have to measure 90 degrees on the pipe. Measure like this, it won't read correctly.
So how you hold it is very
It has to be
important.
90 degrees to the tubing.
Okay. But this car has been certified before. I don't recall if the last time it got done you did it or if another gentleman did it. But for you guys at home, what that means is this car has a roll cage. It is welded to the chassis. There is an FI spec for how quickly we can drive this car down a sanctioned drag strip. And you have to have it certified by an inspector. And
I did that.
you did do that one.
I did that one because I punched my stickers a little way. I punched the year twice.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I know that I did the car.
Ah, all right.
Everybody does it a little different way. Than some of them use a star. Some of them use like a rectangle. Some of them use a big hole punch. I use an 1/8 inch hole punch.
Okay. Yeah, and nothing has changed on my car, but it was 3 years ago that it was certified, and so every 3 years we have to have it looked at again just in case I did change something about the car. And essentially there's a spec for all the tubing used in the roll cage, and there's a spec for where each bar needs to be. And, you know, for instance, that door bar has to come up between my shoulder and my elbow, and so your seat height and where the bar is placed, all that stuff matters. And every few years you get it looked at again, and if it passes, they'll put another sticker on there. And that's the old one, and we need that done for drag week. So because we didn't go track testing today, instead we lucked out and we're able to get our chassis sorted today. So there's the all-important Nhra Sportsman sticker. With this sticker, we can go no quicker than 8.50 seconds in a quarter mile.
It's hard to see in here. The lights are glaring on it.
And it's good for what, 3 more years?
3 years.
Cool.
To the end of the month. End of the month punched.
Right on. And do you peel the old one off or just put that on top of it?
Now I got to peel the old one off, and I have to destroy them.
Got it.
Car hasn't run in 2 years. I'm scared. What if it doesn't work? Okay, the starter doesn't engage. Which means it's too far away. So I gotta shim it closer.
All right, starter won't engage, and it's this nifty Nhra, way too expensive, really nice starter that's got more adjustability than I really want. I wanted to just bolt it in and start the car, but Nhra wants you to be able to shim this thing left and right so you can clock it and maintain a perfect mesh between the gears. Plenty of backlash, plenty of clearance between the pinion gear and the flywheel gear. Yeah, so that's what was in there, which looks like it had the starter clocked out away from the engine. So when I hit the start button, just nothing happened, it just spun. So I'm gonna go closer to neutral, which, I don't know, number 7, right in the middle. Let's try that. So our bolt's gonna move that far. I like big changes, so we're doing that. I'm putting these bad boys in now. And here's what I'm talking about. So she's a beaut, she's nice. But I've had this thing for, I don't know, 3 years, I'm guessing. And I've never been able to use it because it would never fit any of the other Hemi blocks that have been in this car. Nhra wants you to brand the crap out of your engine block to fit their starter. And I'm not into it, so I never did it. But on this Keith Black block, it does fit. No grinding. You just had to figure out how to make it mesh. So I'm going to be putting those in there, and with our bolt we should be good, I think. I don't know, the instructions are quite vague. Oh, we got it now. Okay, let's open the garage. Can you believe I nailed that on the second try? I know. Magic. It's magical. Now, let's turn the ignition on and check for fuel leaks. We've already had fuel leaks. I fixed them. Let's check again. You guys watch from here, okay? If you see something, say something. That's how we get through this without being on fire. Okay. Oh, we got another fuel leak. Bam! Holy cow. Coming out of an injector. That's a lot of gasoline. All right, well, let's just turn on the fan again. See right there, fuel everywhere. Probably pinched an O-ring or something. Okay. So sorry for the background noise. That's the fan trying to get rid of the fumes. But if you look close, right there, you'll see an O-ring peeking out there that got pinched in the fuel rail when I installed it. So that's an easy fix. Lift up the fuel rail, replace the O-ring, put it back in, and we good to go. Carpet, real seats. We got an actual steel trunk with hinges on it. Check out what Nhra made, dog. Quick release pin there, and then this seat flips forward so we can get into the back of the car.
We are back with Pete. We're in Mooresville, North Carolina. We're about to dyno this thing for the first time. Pete, what's the difference between this one and the old setup? What changes did you make?
Well, the biggest thing I guess would be the block itself. It's a brand new block, and that fixes a lot of the problems we were having with the other block. So that's fresh, brand new crank rods, pistons. Camshaft's totally different. This block uses a 60 millimeter cam, and it's probably a good bit more cam than it had before. But the basics of the thing are still the same principle. Heads are the same, different springs, but actually less spring. The blower's the same. Right now, the injectors, they're the throttle body and such are the same. We're probably going to play around with a bigger one once we start to turn the pulley up, but that's the basics of it.
Sweet. So how much power do you think she'll put down to the tire now?
No idea. Mike kind of wants to make somewhere in the 1050 to 1100 range if we can with the pipes on. Because then, in theory, could leave the pipes on for his passes on drag week and not have to fool with taking them off every time at the track, which would be, I'm sure, quite a nuisance. So
yeah,
that's kind of the goal.
All right, well, we got E85 in the tank. Tanks are hooked up. Fuel lines are switched over. Let's make some power.
All right, so we're making pulls and we're just playing with stuff. We have questions about the blower because the boost is kind of going down instead of up. We don't know what's up with that, but we're playing with also the injector, being super safe with the tune-up, and now we found out we had some issues with gearing we weren't aware of. We've changed up what gear we're making pulls in now to get that under control, and now we're going to pull the side pipes off just to see what that does. That'll give us some idea where we need to go with the tune and the motor.
So where are we at for power right now?
Right now we're at 80 something at 6,000, and it's obviously still headed north, but we're just kind of creeping up on stuff.
I think taking the mufflers off is going to be a big
Probably
change.
so, because these things, it's 5 or 6 feet of straight muffler right here. So, but you can hear it sounds muffled.
Oh yeah.
You know, but we'll see what that does when we pull that off. I guess we're pretty much done for today. We're at about 1,023, which is more than they had last time, I believe, and it's probably about what it needs to do the job. So tune-up wise, we're still very conservative. If we need any more, we can put it in, but I doubt we're going to need to do that. I guess in the morning we're going to make some changes with gearing and such to take more advantage of this transmission that's in there now. So we're using 4 gears instead of 3, and then tomorrow night, I guess y'all going to take to the track and dump the clutch a couple times just to make sure that's all good. But motor wise, I guess we're done for tonight. The cylinder stuff is better than it's ever been. I think we've changed the fueling strategy a little bit to make things a little happier, and that seems to be good.
Where are we at on timing? Did you put it back to 24 or are we at 26?
We're at 26 right now.
26, okay.
Yep. 26 and super fat. The numbers that it's saying that I've got it set at are crazy fat, but it seems to be happy that way, and I'm one to run stuff as fat as I can until we need to lean it out, you know.
Sounds good. We're almost ready to hit through. We got a couple more little things to put in the trailer if we can find room. The 55's full of stuff. The ramp truck's full of stuff. The drag week trailer's full of stuff. The Chevelle is loaded. The bed of I don't know where they're going to put all this once they get on the road. But the good thing is we'll have everything there. They can sort through it, take what they absolutely need. I can bring home, whatever's left. But we've been up for the past 6 days. We got probably 10, 12 hours of sleep total over the past week. And but everything seems to be pretty close to being ready to go. So they should have fun. Pulled over to rest area and got out and immediately smelled transmission fluid. So I'm looking at the trailer. The front of the fenders have transmission fluid on them, and the back of the truck's got transmission fluid on it. So looking at the truck, and there's transmission fluid everywhere. Looks like it's coming out around the lines. It's hard lined from the back here where the cooler is, all the way up the frame rail to where it goes into the trans, and that whole area is just saturated with fluid. So hopefully, there's 4 clamps right there. Hopefully one of those is loose and it's just spitting out fluid under pressure. If it's something else, I don't know. But right now we're just outside of Chattanooga. We got like 6 hours to go. So, not good.
Yeah, see, it's pretty much dry up here. It's all right here where these lines are. This is good news. This is really loose. But this is the last thing I want to do is work on the tow vehicle to get the drag car up to the event after working on it all week. But these are loose, which is good. So after I tighten this up, I'll brake clean everything. We'll fire it up after I clean my face off. I'm gonna clean the hell out of it. We're gonna crank it up and see if we can see anything leaking. If not, we're gonna keep on trucking and try and make it to the event. So one way or another, we're getting there.
I don't see any leaks. Think you were okay? Hopefully it's not something that when you're driving down the road and like under like a lot of pressure it starts leaking, but right now at idle it's not leaking, so let's cross our fingers. It's in the okay. It's in the cross hatches, it's all good.
the same place at the same time. Drag Week starts tomorrow. Newbern and the gang are sleeping because they've killed themselves to get this car here. I am so thankful. I'm so appreciative. I don't know what's going to happen when I let the clutch out for my first test pass tomorrow night, but we're going to find out, and we're going to show you that and everything that happens during Hot Rod Drag Week 2022. We're going to upload videos nearly every day if we can, and just keep you right here with us. Team Blasphemi.